uninsured funds.
I need a car wash. Oh, car wash.
For renewable energy projects. Learn about opportunities at ConeResnick.com/IRA.
Now, your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 960.
It'll be partly to mostly sunny as we go through this afternoon. Temperatures mainly sitting in the 70s. Today, mostly cloudy skies with a few showers in the 50s. For Saturday, morning showers then breaking clouds, again mostly in the 70s. Then for Sunday, morning clouds, afternoon sun, 70 to 75 for the day, near 85 though, well inland. This is meteorologist Gary Best, here with your 3-day weather forecast on Bloomberg 960.
Market, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash. It's 3:21 on Wall Street. We do check markets all day long here at Bloomberg. We're looking at a mixed market right now with 39 minutes to go ahead of the closing bell. The Dow higher up by 42 points. That is a gain right now of 0.2%. S&P, NASDAQ, they are both trading lower. S&P is down 20, a decline of 0.5%. NASDAQ down 159, a drop there of 1.2%. Stocks fell, bonds rose. The signs Israel is preparing for a ground invasion of Gaza left traders looking for safety ahead of the weekend. 10-year yield now 4.62% with a 2-year 5.05%. Gold is surging $59 the ounce to 1928. The precious metal up now by 3.2%. West Texas Intermediate crude up 5.5%, 87.52 for a barrel of WTI. Bitcoin up 0.1%, 26,768 on Bitcoin. Bank stocks, they are now trading mixed after earnings this morning. JP Morgan Chase up 1.7%. Citigroup now lower by 0.3% after initially moving higher. Wells Fargo up by 3%. Andrew Schutz is the president of Menden Capital Advisors. He was interviewed moments ago here on Bloomberg Markets, and he reminds us we've got plenty more to come in terms of bank earnings.
Yeah, I think people are still waiting for next week, right? What we didn't really get was sort of a regional thing. I can't see the closest thing. People are really looking for the truest U.S. corps. There's a lot of people short a lot of these things, and they want the narrative to be very negative.
And you can hear more of that conversation on the Bloomberg Business Week podcast. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts. Again, recapping here, we're looking at a mixed market. S&P down 23, drop there of 0.5%. The Dow higher by 0.1%. NASDAQ down 1.2%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie Pellet, thank you so much. There at Bloomberg headquarters in New York City. Just that, Carol Master, we are live here at our Bloomberg Bureau in Los Angeles. And being at the West Coast, if you go up north, you'll run into Microsoft.
Yes.
I think they're celebrating.
I think they're like a sigh of
Playing
relief this is going on, or maybe they're like finally. Microsoft completing its $69 billion purchase of Activision Blizzard. This is after nearly a 2-year fight with global regulators that threatened to scuttle the deal. It makes it the largest ever video games deal that closes after regulatory hurdles. The biggest ever acquisition, though, gives the maker of Xbox consoles a more formidable position against rivals, vaults it from a 5th to 3rd place globally, behind none other than Tencent and Sony.
A couple of FTC issues, though, because it sounds like there's still some legal action that they are pursuing that could potentially
Show off.
the deal. So let's get to it, and let's get to our Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Technology Analyst, Anurag Rana. He's with us on Zoom in Chicago, along with Bloomberg News DashCam reporter Cecilia Di Anastasio, and she is also with us on this Friday. So this acquisition, massive, big gaming story. It's also a big Microsoft story. So I feel like there's a couple of angles to it. So let's get to it. All right, let's start with you first of all. This deal, is it really not quite done? The FTC continues legal action, if you will, and its own administrative hearing. So are we safe to say it's a done deal, or do we have to kind of wait a little bit longer?
I did consult with our expert Henry, and she thinks the probability of FTC winning here is very, very low at this point. So, other than some, you could say legally, formal closing, I think this is pretty much a done deal in our view.
All right, so having said that, how big a deal is it for you in your world? It's 2 years in the making, so you've got plenty of time to think about it. That's it. Is it a great thing for Microsoft?
It's a good thing for Microsoft. It's going to add, I mean, from a financial point of view, it only adds, say, roughly about $9-10 billion in sales to Microsoft's base now. Normally that would be a big deal but for a company like Microsoft, that's, 3 to 4% in revenue. It's not much, frankly, but it does impact their ecosystem of gaming. It does solidify it. It helps them in longer term in mobile gaming and perhaps even in cloud gaming once we get to that point.
Cecilia D'Anastasio, come on in here with this, because I'm wondering what it means for gamers. What does it mean for the people who buy games from Activision Blizzard, and, for competitors like EA, for example, who, doesn't necessarily have now the same leverage that other companies do with Microsoft?
Yeah, that's a great question. For gamers, it means that Activision Blizzard's stable of games, which includes Overwatch, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, all of these beloved titles, may become available on Microsoft's Game Pass service. That's a Netflix for games subscription service, has a ton of subscribers, and also includes the cloud gaming feature. And so soon, much to the CMA's dismay over in the UK, gamers will be able to access several of these titles through their mobile phones, through streaming technology, and also through other devices as well.
I think about this, we talked about it. Oh, no, go ahead, please. Sorry.
Sorry, so when it comes to EA, so EA now is the largest independent game publisher right now, and I'm sure a lot of people are looking at EA and thinking they might be into the acquisition, including tech companies, but also at the same time, I mean, Microsoft has done so much over these last
Watch out, animal on shoulder ahead.
What I would say is Microsoft is one of the companies that truly changed the way people think about competition. It has worked very closely since Satya took over as the CEO with all its competitors. I really don't see any issue for EA or anybody else. In fact, I would, I'm very confident that Microsoft's going to make it easier for all its competitors, gaming competitors, to work closely with them because they really don't want to compete as a healthy competition in any. But even without that feeling, I think Microsoft has done a very good job to work closely with all its competitors in the last few years.
Come on and add to this and give us your thoughts on EA and what, Lauren told us yesterday, which was that she's not concerned at all about a bigger Microsoft.
Yeah, so Microsoft isn't just a game publisher and a game developer, they're also a game distributor. So they have the Xbox platform, they have Windows PCs, they have their cloud gaming service, game subscription service, and so the broader Microsoft reach, the broader the reach of games potentially inside competitors like EA to Microsoft's huge audience. So there are ways in which Microsoft can network effects, but of course there are competitors out there like Sony who operate competing platforms like the PlayStation console and also its competing game subscription service who might say that the deal giving Microsoft a bigger share of the pie and might potentially be anti-competitive.
Kind of a next mover that you might be watching in the gaming industry. As we said, we're talked about EA. That's a tough one to swallow. It's a pretty big company, but I do wonder. I know there's been, I don't know, speculation about Apple, perhaps. But how are you seeing it, and what are you keeping on your radar, whether in terms of either potential link-ups, combinations, or other deals?
Yeah, EA is now the largest independent games publisher, so I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of speculation there. At the same time, the companies that are large enough to really stomach an EA at this point are companies that have struggled to break into gaming. Amazon, for example, has had a very troubled history in the games industry. They tried to develop their own first-party games. Many of them have been failures or canceled. Amazon's cloud gaming service isn't exactly popular yet. Google's had some of the same difficulties developing some of its own games and its own cloud gaming services. So it would make sense for a tech giant to buy a gaming company wholesale, especially one as decorated as EA. But there are also, of course, all of these M&A challenges we've seen with Activision and Microsoft that might put off another tech giant from getting involved.
Rod, what do you think? Who's next?
Yeah, I second that. I think it's going to be very difficult for Apple and processors to go out and make a big acquisition right now. They have enough of their own trouble trying to convince people that they are not using their position for anti-competitive reasons. So I really find it hard to believe that they will engage in that at this point.
All right, we're leaving on that note. Hey guys, have a great weekend. Thanks for weighing in on this. Our appreciation to Bloomberg Intelligence Senior Technology Analyst Anurag Rana with us on Zoom in Chicago, and Cecilia Anastasio. Of course, she covers the Bloomberg news area when it comes to video games, so perfect to right
I was thinking about the question I asked Laura yesterday over at EA about her favorite game by EA. World of Warcraft, Activision Blizzard.
He was willing to play it like she knows, right?
He likes that game.
He likes that game as well.
Maybe this is full of frenemies.
Maybe it has
to be, yeah. If they're making games that have to be on,
platforms, right?
Yeah, different platforms like Sony, PlayStation.
Different hardware. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We've got more to come. Cheryl Master along with Tim Stanovic live at our West Coast Bureau here in Los Angeles.
Let's now get a check the latest world and national news. We got Denise Pellegrini in the Bloomberg 1130 newsroom in New York. Hey, Denise.
Hey there, guys. We do have more fighting in the Middle East this hour. Israeli troops carrying out new raids in Gaza. Hamas says dozens of evacuating people have been killed by Israeli airstrikes today, and that is ahead of what many are expecting to be a ground invasion of Gaza possibly this weekend. State Department organizing evacuations meantime for U.S. citizens from Israel. The first of those flights landing in Athens. We're just getting word that Delta is actually adding Athens-New York flights for next week to help these folks return to the United States from Athens there after coming out of Israel. Meantime, Hezbollah carrying out fresh attacks on Israeli army posts, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin at an Israeli airbase.
You're playing a big part in a really important endeavor here, and the Israelis are doing what they need to do to protect their sovereignty and protect their people. They're going to need to do a lot more. They're going to need a lot more stuff.
And Austin warning others hoping to take advantage of this conflict to just stay out of it entirely. Meantime, Paul Lips, Tel Aviv University professor, telling us Israel sees this war as a true war of survival at this point.
We actually believe that if the Hamas had managed to get a little bit further into the country, it would have been the end of the state of Israel.
And Lips on our Bloomberg Surveillance podcast. Hamas, meantime, calling today a day of rage globally. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators gathering in Times Square this hour. Fight among Republicans for House Speaker intensifying. Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio running again. Ousted House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he supports him, and we'll see if McCarthy gets his wish, though. Austin Scott is now challenging Jordan. Could see a vote today, according to Ben Klein, representative from Virginia.
Police reported ahead.
On Bloomberg Radio. Global News 24 hours a day. Powered by more than 2,700 journalists. I'm Denise Pellegrini.
When you want it, get the latest headlines with Bloomberg News Now. Israel's war against Hamas on. The top stories from Bloomberg's global team of reporters at the click of a button.
Kevin McCarthy has been ousted as House Speaker.
Get the latest news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now.
A reversal in policy for President Biden.
Visit on Bloomberg.com and anywhere you get your podcast. Bloomberg News Now. Context changes everything.
Present DashCam with Mary Delphin, partner in
Trust in state practice and Citron Cooperman.
Estate plans should be reviewed frequently and updated when necessary to ensure they still accomplish your goals and objectives. They need to be updated because of birth or death of the family, marriage or divorce, and business succession planning. Another reason to update an existing estate plan is to take advantage of the increase in the lifetime exemption. The exemption is currently $12.92 million, which means you can transfer assets up to this amount without incurring a federal gift or estate tax. This exemption is set to expire in 2026, at which time it will be cut in half. It is important to plan now for the use of the increased exemption.
For more tax chats from Citron Cooperman, visit CitronCooperman.com. That's CITRIN Cooperman.com. They focus on what counts by providing critical industry insight and professional services to clients for over 40 years.
Access a vast selection of global fixed income securities at Interactive Brokers Bond Marketplace. Search their deep availability of over 1 million bonds globally. IBKR has no markup and low, fully transparent commissions on bonds. IBKR displays the highest rates and lowest offers of fees from the electronic ministry access. And interact with each other by placing bids and offers online to execute their trade. Learn more at ibkr.com/bonds.
A graduate with 3 degrees from New Jersey Institute of Technology, Robert Cohen chairs NJIT Board of Trustees. He's also a top executive at Medical Device Maker Stryker Corporation. And universities like NJIT. If you look at NJIT students, there are plenty of companies that want to get into the career fair, and it's because they see those students as innovative. I can tell you for a fact, because we hire many NJIT graduates, these students can contribute right from the get-go. The guy who reports to me who's in charge of all my science development, NJIT grad. The guy who reports to me in charge of all my robotics development, NJIT grad. They contribute to development cycle. They contribute to the testing. We have NJIT graduates in manufacturing. We have NJIT graduates in quality assurance. We have NJIT graduates in computer science. These students are some of our best.
Suggested the Fed could be cutting soon. Now that's being pushed out. We're even talking about hikes. That poses risk to the outlook. On the other side of things, credit. I mean, wow, the credit beat at JP Morgan was pretty tremendous. Analysts expected about $1 billion of reserve building. They actually had a net release. So the better economy, better than expected, right? Like a year ago, we were talking about recession. The economy's coming better. There's rate risk, but the credit is also holding up better.
So I wonder what they're making in terms of rates on an average loan compared to what they're paying.
You know, a year ago we were talking higher rates are good because we saw the yield, as you said, what customers are paying them when they borrow, that repriced pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then deposit costs have come later. That's cutting into the net interest income, but not as much as expected. So I think a lot of banks were excited in September, or at least alluded to the fact that things were trending better and stabilizing. Again, the question is, you know, does that sort of reinvigorate and funding costs go higher?
Hear the full conversation on the latest edition of the Tape Podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Plus, listen anytime on the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on Bloomberg Television, and the Bloomberg Business app. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
At 3:40 on Wall Street, we do check check markets all day long here at Bloomberg Bank. Earnings Friday. It has been a choppy session. The Dow just turning negative in the red along with the S&P and NASDAQ. Let's head right over to the first word. Breaking news desk for today's afternoon call. Here he is, Bill Maloney.
Hey, good afternoon, Charlie. That's right. U.S. stocks are well off their session highs with the Dow just turning negative by a point. S&Ps are down 27, while NASDAQ is off by 1.3%. The Dow was up 327 points. The U.S. 10-year yield at 4.62%. Gold is surging by 59 points. Oil is soaring by 5%, but Bitcoin is little changed. Among the main 11 S&P sectors, leaders were energy and the utilities. Tech and consumer discretionary were under pressure, and leaders to the upside in the Dow, UNH and Chevron, while Walgreens and Boeing led to the downside. After earnings, JP Morgan rose 1.7%, Wells Fargo climbed 3%, but Citigroup reversed gains of 4.3%. Regarding recent IPOs, Birkenstock fell another 3.5%. And in other news, Dollar General rose 8.7% as the former CEO returned. Wrapping things up among the retailers, Kohl's and Macy's traded to the lowest levels since 2020. Live from the first breaking news desk, I'm Bill Maloney. Charlie?
Okay, we thank you very much, Bill Maloney, and to hear live breaking news over your Bloomberg type Squawk SQUA on your Bloomberg terminal. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash. I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio.
Now that you let me drive.
Oh, no.
Who's gonna drive you home?
Honey, please, I'll do the drive.
Drive on.
Wait, I want to drive.
It's the question of time.
This is the Drive to the Close
Give me a sec. We'll try it up until the dawn.
on Bloomberg Radio.
All right, everybody, just got about 18 minutes or maybe 17 and a half minutes left in today's trading session. Getting ready to wrap up this Friday the 13th, and really the week overall, in a week where we've had, very serious geopolitical events happening. We've had big bank earnings, we've had reads on inflation, we've had the Fed minutes. So there's a lot coming out. Investors really trying to strategize about kind of where we go from here in this final quarter of the year.
Still up though on the week, Carol, on the S&P 500, just about 0.3%. The Dow up 0.6%. The NASDAQ though lower by 0.3% for the week. Hey, still got a few minutes to go to.
Yeah, and what's been interesting is kind of, we talked about this with Jeff Benton and a few others. This could be a second week of gains for the S&P 500 for the week overall after having several weeks in a row where we didn't see any gains. So let's go to what Walter Todd has to say about it all. He's President and Chief Investment Officer at Greenwood Capital. They've got roughly about $1.5 billion in assets under management on Zoom from Greenwood, South Carolina. Happy 40 years, by the way.
Carol, thanks so much. Yeah, we're excited to be celebrating our 40th year in business.
Well, 40 years in, you've seen a few cycles. This has been an interesting one. We had Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan come in and talk about kind of the seriousness of our times and how it's making it difficult overall. And I'm assuming he was pointing to geopolitically what was going on in Israel and continues to go on in the Middle East this week. How do you think about this cycle and in terms of the opportunities or the trickiness of navigating it for investors?
Yeah, it's very challenging. This is
I think we just lost Walter Todd, President and Chief Investment Officer at Greenwood Capital. Zoom froze. We're going to work to do our best to get him back. In the meantime, the market check, the Dow just about flat right now, down 0.1%. The S&P 500, a little bit of selling into the close, Carol, down 0.7%. The NASDAQ really taking it on the chin today, though, down 1.4%.
Yeah, if I look at the major industry groups in terms of what's really performing today, energy is the top of your list. It's up about 2%. There's 11 of them. Financials kind of in the middle, down 0.2% overall. Walter's back with us. Sometimes Zoom freezes. That's what happens in this world. Good to have you back with us, Walter. So again, talk to us about this environment and how you're kind of thinking it against other difficult market cycles that we've had in the past.
Yeah, so what I was saying is this is one where if you were given perfect information, you probably still wouldn't have gotten the call right on the market being up given the situation that's going on overseas right now. So it is a very challenging time, and I think it's...
Oh, we're having another freeze. All right. We apologize. apologize to those who are watching and listening right now with our technical problems with the Zoom with Walter Todd. Hopefully we'll get back to him. But as I mentioned, let's go back to the markets a little bit. Tim was talking about what we're seeing in terms of the equity trade. Big banks, we've seen JP Morgan, Citi, and Wells Fargo actually outperform in today's session coming off of earnings. But again, if I look at those major industry groups in the S&P 500, there are 11. Financials are your fifth best performer, but they're down as a whole, down 0.2%. So just remember, whenever we're talking about a group